What Harrison Ford, J.K. Rowling, and Pedro Pascal have in common. All of them experienced in their own histories a Black Swan event. In this video, we're going to explore this kind of story and how our minds tend to interpret it. Let's start with the Chinese bamboo story. You plant the seed, water it every day, you fertilize it, you take care of it, and for 5 years nothing happens. No sprout and no sign, just soil, and you keep watering dirt. Then, all of a sudden, in 6 weeks, it shoots up more than 60 feet. So did it grow in 6 weeks or in 5 years? That question sounds simple, but it's not, because the same question applies to people, and most of us are answering it wrong. There's a specific feeling that settles in around 30, sometimes earlier. The feeling that the train already left, that everyone else started sooner, ran faster, and now all that's left is watching it from a distance. It disguises itself as realism. I should have made it by now, there's no point trying anymore, the people who were going to make it already did. It talks to you while you scroll and watch people your age standing in places you thought would be yours too. And it leans on a belief that seems obvious but is actually an illusion, the belief that fate has already written the chapter you're now, and that it's already written the ones coming next. The author Nassim Taleb has a name for what happened to that bamboo, except he applies it to human lives instead of plants. He calls it a Black Swan, a rare event that seems impossible before it happens, that completely reroots everything, and that, after it happens, the mind quietly rewrites as if it had always been obvious. Today, it seems obvious that Harrison Ford would become Han Solo, but at 33, Ford wasn't a working actor, he was a carpenter. He'd walked away from acting after years of small, going-nowhere roles and was building furniture to support his family. He was literally on a job site at the home of a director named George Lucas when he got asked to read lines with actors auditioning for a low-budget science fiction film. Ford read the lines and Lucas liked how he sounded. A year later, Star Wars premiered and the carpenter became the most famous smuggler in film history. Jeong was a doctor, fully licensed, practicing medicine at a hospital while performing stand-up at night, with no guarantee it would lead anywhere. He didn't leave medicine until years trying to balance both lives. At 37, he had a small part in Knocked Up. The following year, at 38, playing Leslie Chow in The Hangover turned him, almost overnight, into one of comedy's most recognizable faces. Pedro Pascal at 38 was still waiting for his first real break. Decades of small parts, waiting tables in New York, leaning on friends just to eat. He said himself that he believed if he hadn't achieved something real by 29, his career was over. He passed 29, he passed 30, he kept going. At 39, he was cast as Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones. And there's a more recent story, a Paraguayan goalkeeper named Orlando Gill. He spent years on the bench at a modest club, barely playing a handful of matches a season. In 2022, when his newborn son faced serious health complications, Gill sold almost everything tied to his career, cleats, kits, even the jersey he'd kept from Paraguay's under-20 national team, to cover the treatment. There was no guarantee any of it would ever pay off. 4 years later, he was standing between the posts for Paraguay's senior national team at 2026 World Cup, saving 2 penalties against Germany, a 4-time world champion, guaranteeing the win and becoming one of the match's breakout heroes. You probably already knew one of these stories. J.K. Rowling, a single mother, unemployed, writing in an Edinburgh cafe because she couldn't afford to heat her flat all day. 12 publishers rejected the Harry Potter manuscript before the 13th said yes, and mostly by accident, a director's 8-year-old daughter read the first chapter and begged for the second. By now, that story is basically inspirational poster material, which is exactly why it's useful here. Success has a strange side effect. The more iconic the outcome, the more it erases the memory that the outcome was ever in doubt. Nobody introduces her as the broke single mom from Edinburgh anymore. She's just J.K. Rowling, like it was always going to happen. The struggle didn't get less real, it just became invisible because we already know how the story ends. None of these people knew in the exact moment of struggle that it wasn't the end of the story. Probably they thought it was, and everyone around them thought so too. Carl Jung once said that the tree that grows toward heaven needs its roots to reach into hell. Going back to the bamboo, those 5 years of nothing weren't nothing. Underground, the roots were spreading meter after meter in total darkness, building a system wide enough to support what was coming. The plant wasn't resting. It was building the only thing that could hold 60 feet of height once it arrived. The hardest stretches aren't a detour from the trajectory, they are the trajectory. Ford learning patience with wood he couldn't rush. Pascal collecting decades of small characters that taught him what to do when the big one finally showed up. Rowling writing thousands of pages nobody read, building the one thing no publisher could turn down later, the story itself. Picture two people, one just got promoted, the other just got fired. Which one is closer to the best day of their life? You don't know, and neither do they. The promotion could lock someone into 10 more years of a job that slowly kills them. The firing could be the exact push someone needed to finally do the thing they'd been too comfortable to try. In the moment, good news and bad news look exactly the same. The label only gets attached later once you can see where it led. The same way Ford's carpentry years only look like preparation now because you already know what came after them. He didn't have that luxury, he just had sawdust and rent to pay. If you'd asked any of these people a year before their turn what the future held, they could have gotten it wrong. Ford could have said carpenter forever. Rowling could have said maybe it's time to stop writing. Gill could have said he was just a goalkeeper who couldn't afford his own boots. They wouldn't have been wrong because they were naive. They would have been wrong because nobody can see their own roots while they're still spreading. Nobody can read their own Black Swan before it lands. Maybe that's what Jung meant to say, the roots reaching into hell. It's not suffering for its own sake, but a part of the process nobody photographs. The bamboo isn't waiting for permission to grow. It's underground, doing invisible work with no audience and no proof yet that any of it is working. And when the Black Swan finally lands, whenever it lands, it won't look like luck. It'll look inevitable, obvious, like it was always going to happen no matter the way. Not because it was written in advance, but because by then, the roots will already be wide enough to hold whatever grows out of them. Their stories look finished now because they already happened. Yours doesn't feel finished because you're not watching it from the outside. You're standing in the middle of it at the part that always feels the most stuck. Maybe that's not proof you're behind. Maybe it's just what a root looks like right before anyone can see it.
If this reflection resonated with you, like and subscribe to The Arise. New reflections await.